the week. Ladies and gentlemen, he joins us now from beautiful Montana. You know, they call it America. It is Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. He's joining us at a different time. We've asked him to move his schedule around. He said, you know what, I'll do anything for you because I love you. It's all brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. It's located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. Chalet Bowl has been a family-owned and operated for over 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check out chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I had to cut my local trip to my daily trip to Walmart short. I kind of wander around there. Sometimes people confuse me for a greeter, but like the gym, kind of where I go work out at, is up there. But I didn't go today because I adjusted for you. I might go this afternoon, but I end up between my girlfriend or my mom and dad having to go out to Walmart or one of the stores to run errands. You know, my dad is the best when I get the text because he doesn't text a lot. Hey, are you doing anything? No. Why don't you stop and pick me up a 12-pack and a can of Long Cut? Only in Montana. And I mean, like, and I go,
God, yeah, I love your dad. I want to be your dad.
And he like one of my kid I went to high school with owns this little gas station. You know, it's got a little convenience store, a little hunting store in there. So I'll stop in there. So, give him the business. And so I'll buy my dad a 12-pack, and my dad prefers the 16s. So, you got to buy the pounders, a Miller Lite, and then Long Cut, Sometimes I'll have to pick him up some high country beef jerky to go with it because that's what his diet seems to consist of. He's also a man that eats peanut butter sandwich on white bread, real butter, then peanut butter, and that's it.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. White, like Wonder Bread, and then white butter, bread. And then peanut butter?
Peanut butter, yeah. That's his preferred choice of...
He is an American god, is what he is.
Yeah, well, former drill sergeant in the Army, and he's still, 77 years old, still ornery. We got the puppy, and so what they didn't realize, the last two times we got lab puppies, is we always had an older lab. Yeah. With them. So to teach them basically, like with our last black lab, she was potty trained by the chocolate lab because he used the dog door. She just followed him out and tormented him. Well, we don't have another lab to teach this little guy. And he's in the biting phase right now, the chewing phase. His teeth are sharp and he's just a total menace. And so I look out today, I went up to my parents, I look outside, because I don't see the dog, and we got him to use the dog doors better. I look outside, I'm like, where is he at? And I look over, and he's in my mom's flower bed, and he's got a hole the size of the Grand Canyon, and he's just pounding out dirt. And I'm like, hey, and he shoots his face up, and it's just pure black from nose to eyeballs and his front paws, and he comes charging through the dog door. He's going to run through my parents' house. So here I am trying to tackle this 30-pound little piece of little shit. And like, he thinks it's a game. So I got mud on my face and all over my clothes. I was like, and then he looks at you and he gives you that look and you're like, you can't stay mad at him,
No, you can't. You can't. God, no.
So,
oh God, I love it. You have a great day.
Yeah. That's my job. Usually is like, my dad's like, hey, come up here and go exercise this dog. He's bothering me, or I'll go up there and like, now I've got to go up and put up the mesh fencing around this garden so he can't dig in there. I already did it around like this other flower bed where he was taking the lava rocks and trying to eat them. So.
Oh, they're a beautiful thing. It's amazing you're able to do all of this and then squeeze in a brand new Extra Innings podcast with Adam Jude, which you guys brought out this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time since you had one of those Extra Inning podcasts.
Like 5 months. Reggie doesn't pay me to do my own podcast, so I haven't done it. I felt like some people was like, why don't you go on the Extra Innings one? I was like, well, I go on with Puckett like twice a week. Yeah, we don't like him. Well, I'm sorry. That's kind of what it is.
Who said that?
Oh, you piss off a lot of different people.
Well, who doesn't like me? What did I do to people? I didn't do anything.
I mean, there are people that don't like you. I mean, there's a high list. I mean, just partnering with Jim Moore doesn't put you high up there.
Yeah, well, you can't be loved by everyone. You know that. You know what that feeling's like.
Yeah. Before we get into this is something I was thinking about when I was at Walmart and then just kind of wandering around in my
Is
life.
Walmart the only store there in Havre? Is that why you go
Pretty
there?
much, yeah. They have an IGA, but that's about it. They don't really have
Okay.
a lot. So, anyways, and just like my daily musings, like when I'm at the gym and hating life, and all I can do is the elliptical because I'm old and fat. And I was, listening to you yesterday lament about the Seahawks, and I thought to myself, and Adam and I were talking about this, of the major professional sports in Seattle, and I'll classify UW football
Sure.
because like they're paying players now.
Yeah.
So like Mariners, Seahawks, UW football, and the Kraken. Which team is the closest to winning a championship? Like the overall championship?
Well, are you going to throw the Sounders and like the Storm in there too?
No.
Okay.
No, because I don't know really anything about them. And,
Yeah, okay.
And while I get in trouble by people like even at our own paper who think that the Storm winning the NBA title is the same as the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, it's not. So, but of those four, like who's the closest?
Okay. Of the four that you mentioned, who's closest to winning a championship? Oh, God,
A national championship or like a world championship?
Yeah, I got you. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, think about this. Who's closest to winning their division or their conference?
I mean, honestly, I'd say the Mariners.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's the Mariners. I mean, but I mean, I don't know. It's picking like the ugliest kid at an convention. I don't know. Yeah, but it's probably them.
Yeah, I mean, like, and granted, like UW's coming off of all the success.
Yeah, but again, it's no new regime and everything.
New conference too, like a much more difficult conference. And like even their what is it, the West Division of the Big Ten? I mean, are they that close? It's like you've got Oregon there. I mean, USC is a train wreck, and I can't wait for Jen Cohen to hire somebody. Probably hire Kalen DeBoer away from Alabama. But like, is UW that close? What we've seen this year is no, and then compared to Oregon or even some of the other Big Ten teams. The Seahawks, I mean, I thought they'd be a lot better than they were, and maybe I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit.
It's a great question.
But, yeah. And then, I don't know a lot about the Kraken, and I'm sure Crabtree could come on here and give us a 30-minute dissertation on it. Reading his tweets, like I have no idea I'm not watching the hockey game, and I see his tweets like, oh, that was a close play by so-and-so. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. But yeah, so like if all things being equal right now, go even like say like we'll go past the season for all the current teams. So like the Huskies, Seahawks, even the Kraken, going into next season, going into their 2025 season, who's the closest? Like even with free agency, draft picks, whatever. I mean, if you look at the Seahawks roster, can they fix it enough to be a Super Bowl team within one offseason? One draft, one offseason.
You know what? It is a, God, you got me thinking about this. This is a great question. Like of all, did you guys talk about this on the Extra Innings podcast?
No, I was just like, this is how I was, a lot of free time. And I was watching UW basketball last night and just kind of like thinking about like, how much it's going to take for them to get good again, compared to where they were. I mean, like, it's in football where it's supposed to be parity and it's supposed to make it even. The teams that do it right aren't even, because if you have the game-changing quarterback and you make the right decisions with the personnel you keep, i.e. the Chiefs, then you can offset a set of rules that are supposed to make it difficult for you to have sustained success. The Patriots as well. Eventually it catches up where like, you pay so much to 3 or 4 guys and you just, you're playing with a bunch of younger guys. But like, are the Seahawks 2 players away? Are they, like their offensive line? You guys talked about they probably need 2 more legit offensive linemen. And how do you get it? It's like the Mariners search for hitters versus the Seahawks search for offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Versus like, like the Kraken, they need some guy that can score or something like that. Like there's always, I just don't know who's closest. I guess like the intricacies of baseball tell you that the Mariners are closer because of the pitching and because of what we saw in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if you watch the NFL playoffs and you watch like the game-changing QBs or whatever, or the lines are keeping them upright, it doesn't seem, like the method to winning a Super Bowl doesn't seem to necessarily be where the Seahawks are at because they're not dominant in any one area. The Mariners at least can say they're dominant in starting pitching.
Like unbelievably dominant.
Yeah. I mean, we watched postseason where guys they were making bullpen starts because they didn't have enough guys.
Which is just remarkable to me when you think about the Dodgers. When you think about them winning a championship, and again, they've got Mookie Betts and they got Shohei, and they've got all this talent in the world. But
you forgot the World Series MVP, who's reigning in NL. He's an NL.
Yeah, they are right. That, but they literally, I mean, they acquired their best pitcher, somebody they acquired at the deadline. Going in the postseason, and then you're right, they had bullpen starts. I mean, it's just remarkable when you think about what Seattle had, when you think about what they had, right, Divish, and then what they would have had in the postseason. They would have had Brian Wu and Bryce Miller coming out of their bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. Well, they might not have if Castillo wasn't healthy, though they thought he would be. But then and it speaks to the season and the differences in the season, like that, the vagaries of a regular season doesn't necessarily portend to how you have success in the playoffs. I mean, like we saw that with the Rangers last year, where their bullpen was so god awful that they barely got in, and then because of the way it stretched out, you can manipulate the game.
Yeah.
And I do think like the Mariners were playing a better level of baseball in the last month of the season. And so that's what's probably frustrating too, is like, hey, and really it's like, it's just all of a sudden like everybody's crediting messaging and all this, messaging from Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez and stuff like that. I mean, like, come on, man. It's not like they didn't hit the ball up the middle when they had the other guys. Like, it's just it's like, it's mind-boggling to me to think that like those guys struggled that much, but it also shows like how much the one guy got super duper hot, like Julio, then all of a sudden they changed a lot.
Well, you and Adam talked about that, on the Extra Innings podcast, which is out, by the way, wherever you find your podcast.
Yeah.
It's back after 5 months, him and Jude. Just talking baseball.
We were trying to figure out how to do a live show every day, and then we figured out that we can't do it, so we just said, screw it, we're not going to do anything because it's too much work.
Hey, stop trying to get in on this. You guys come on here if you want. God, I mean, I
thought we were going to do an end of the season wrap-up.
We are going to do it. I will discuss I was hoping that maybe we tape it next week, but now whenever you guys got time. Yeah,
if you drive to Missoula this weekend, we could have recorded in the Oxford.
Oh, are all the guys coming out to Missoula this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're going to freeze to death. How cold is it going to be? 33
at kickoff, I think. 34.
They'll freeze. They'll freeze.
Yeah, Kramer's got like the Costanza puffy coat and stuff. He looks like all of his wardrobe comes from an REI, so he'll be okay.
But I think he's used to the outdoors. He's kind of an outdoorsy guy, right?
Well, he pretends to be, yes.
Okay, but the others aren't.
No.
Well, when you send me a picture when you go to the Ox, please.
Yeah, I will. Thanks. So anyways, back to Julio. Like, we talked about it because, like, to me, like we had a draft of like the some of the themes of the season, but we saw like, and even 2 years ago, we saw that like when he gets hot or when he's just good, not even like great, they're really good because he does a lot of stuff to influence the game once he gets on base or once he just consistently hitting the ball hard. He forces teams to do different things. And we only saw that for maybe a month. Yeah. Maybe there's a 3-week stretch here, a month there. The injury hurt him, but I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I just think we're doing this every week, just talking about off-season trends. We've talked a little bit about Julio. We've talked about Cal Raleigh. We haven't talked since he won the Gold Glove. I want to get to the pitchers here in a quick second, but I was meaning to look this up. How many times, you know this off the top of your head, how many times in a season has a catcher has double dipped on the Silver Slugger and Gold Glove?
It's more than you think, just because
Yeah.
of guys like Salvi Perez.
Yeah, okay.
And like I think Real Muto and Lou Croy, when he was healthy, I think those guys might have done it. But
he's going to do it, and it's a pretty cool club, man. And it just goes to show just what a hell of a season he had, and it's going to continue to drive up his price tag. But you sit back, you're disappointed how the season went as a whole. But for him, the way he played, both offensively and defensively, the leadership he showed, just a phenomenal season for him.
Yeah, let me give you some names: Kenji Jojima, Miguel Olivo, Jeff Clement, Rene Rivera.
Wait, when you started that, I thought you were saying that Kenji Jojima had double dipped.
Oh no, Rene Rivera, John Jaso.
Oh yes,
like the guys that could hit couldn't
Borders.
catch. Yeah, the guys that could hit couldn't catch. The guys that could catch couldn't hit. My boy Rob Johnson.
Yeah.
Adam Moore. Like, and you look around baseball right now, like Travis d'Arnaud had a $8 million or $9 million player option for this year. He declined it, knowing that he's going to get more on the open market as a catcher. The Rays didn't have a catcher. They used, look at how many guys didn't have a catcher. And here the Mariners have a switch-hitting catcher who hits for power, is the best defensive catcher in baseball, and is like one of the best leaders I've ever seen. Totally commands the clubhouse, understands everything about the organization. As I said last night, or said on our podcast, Julio may be the face, but Cal Raleigh is the heartbeat and the conscience of this organization. Like the conscience of what do we do? What's best for the organization? That's what he does. Always, and I mean, these, especially in catchers, they don't come around very often. That's why I'm saying all these names. Since Dan Wilson left, it's kind of like now the Robinson Cano thing at second base. Since Dan Wilson retired, the Mariners went years upon years of trying to find Ben Davis, another good one there.
Oh, love Ben Davis.
Yeah,
best known for.
I have no idea on this one.
Didn't he bunt with a no-hitter?
Oh yeah, that might have been him. Yeah. So you spent all Omar Narvaez couldn't catch. He could hit a little bit though.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Tom Murphy, and he had one really good platoon season. And think about how people loved him just because they didn't have anybody else. So it's like, this is an anomaly, and they don't come around. It's hard to find good catching. It's hard to find catchers that are good at both, are durable, and then also understand the aspect of leadership. And so, dude's going to get paid.
What do you think? I know you've talked about this before. What do you think he gets paid in arbitration?
I think he'll get around between 5 and 6, which will be a record. The highest is 3.5, I think, for JT Realmuto. Adam looked that up in the first year of arbitration. So between 5 and 6.
Which is still a bargain.
Yeah. According to Fangraphs, one WAR is worth $8 million in salary. Technically, one WAR. Cal's like a 3 WAR player, minimum. I mean, that's putting it conservatively.
Oh my God.
So it's like, I just think, I think he's, and that's why you can't it's like the Mitch Haniger thing. You can't get mad at him because he took money this year and didn't take. Oh, I'm sorry. Cal is a 5.4 WAR player this year.
Jesus. And wait a minute. And I didn't know that. In Fangraphs,
they say
each one WAR is worth $8 million.
Yeah, roughly $8 million. That's what it portends to in their their metrics or whatever. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's. That's why, with Mitch, people can be mad. It's not fair. He's getting this money. I'm like, well, he didn't get paid for the first few years. And he certainly didn't get paid after he took one in the beans and had to have 2 surgeries off of it, and all the screw ups that happened medically from there. So no, he's earned that money. A lot of times, you're paying for what they did in the past. Yeah. Yeah, come on, man. It's Twitter.
Where the people really were like, I mean, honestly, I shouldn't be surprised, but there were fans who were like, why is he taking the option?
Yeah, like he should do the organization a favor and just retire.
The organization a favor, yeah. Okay.
And what has the organization done for him? Like, honestly,
nothing.
I mean, like, he didn't even sign this deal. He signed it with the Mariners or with the Giants.
Well, he signed it with the Giants. He didn't sign it with yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, they didn't do anything for him. We've talked a lot about the corrupt system that is Major League Baseball and how they pay these guys when they come out. I mean, Jesus, I mean, again, I know the minimum salary is an unbelievable amount. And again, all of us that are watching and listening to this and would take that in a heartbeat. And it's hard for us to understand, minimum wage is $790,000, but in the context of what they do and the money that they generate.
Well, you could look at it this way. John Stanton and Chris Larson are combined worth of billions, not millions. Yeah. Billions. How many times is 750,000 going to $3 billion?
Yeah.
That's chump change. That's like, that's like Softy wiping his butt with 20s, after something like that. I mean, like this is different.
It doesn't do it with 20s. It's only 100s.
Yeah, I know.
It's only 100s. Why wouldn't they trade one of these young pitchers?
Because they look at it this way, as like this is their best way to win still by pitching really well, and hopefully they can piece together an offense. You're hoping that JP isn't quite as bad as he was last year, and Julio obviously won't be as bad as he was last year, so then that automatically ups you a little bit. Maybe you don't expect Cal to hit 30, but you expect him to hit 25. So then you're thinking, okay, plus a Rosarena is pretty solid. You like what you have with Victor Rojas. I mean, you may have to go over the idea of situational base running with him at times. So like then all of a sudden you're looking around, you go, okay, well, we like our first 4 or 5 guys. Do we want to give up our strength to only marginally add to our weakness? Like, again, like, it's like, you're talking about DK. Well, would you give up DK if you only could add kind of middling pieces to your offensive line or to your linebackers or whatever? It's got to be elite. And I don't know that anybody's willing to all offer somebody might. And the other thing is if you're strapped for cash, you don't want to trade the cheap guys like Bryce and Brian. They're cheap. You're paying them the minimum for a while, and I mean, although Bryce will qualify for Super 2, so he'll be ARB eligible after this coming season. But yeah, like you want to, you don't want to trade your strength too much. Now, if they had, maybe they believe, like if they look and they say like Logan Evans and Brandon Garcia, their 2 best pitching prospects, are the most ready. They look around and say, look, we think these guys are probably even ahead of where Bryce and Brian were when they were called up and forced into debuting. Maybe you can do this. But you'd always want to go with your most expensive guy, Castillo, trade him first. And then the toughest question, and I saw Hollander on MLB Network, and he gave kind of the stock answer, like, hey, we want to make sure we trade for, or we want to sign all these guys and be here. But I'm like, well, okay, if you really want to resign them, then you got to make real offers. And that's not a Hollander decision. That's an ownership decision. So I don't know. Like, that's the question they have to ask. Maybe not this year, but a year from now, if Logan Gilbert has another really strong season and he's going to make $12 million in 2026, then you got to ask, hey, if we can't re-sign him, what do we do? Do we keep paying him, ultimately knowing, and then also have to address where your window has it for success?
Why not shop Castillo?
Well, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're listening, but he makes the most money. He also has a no trade clause, I believe, and
he does.
So he has no trade clause. He makes the most money, and he's also the oldest. So I mean, that diminishes his value a little bit. Like I'm sure if they would listen to possibly offers on Castillo. What if the Dodgers call and say, hey, we'd love Castillo and we'll take the money and we'll trade you Gavin Lux. Then you have your second baseman. Then the Mariners should absolutely do it. And then just find a way to, you piece those other guys in, or you go get a free agent pitcher. But yeah. And that's the same thing. Or if the Red Sox say, hey, we'd love Castillo for Tristan Casas. Okay. Left-handed hitting first baseman, kind of weird, kind of, out there, but hits bombs. Maybe you'd address that. It's the money thing is the issue. I mean, the Mariners might have to, pay a little bit money of his salary if they were to trade him. But I think you're going to look around at like the Dodgers pitching isn't going to get that much healthier, and the Red Sox need pitching. All these people need pitching, so it's out there.
If you did, let's say in a hypothetical, Divish, they trade Castillo. Do you think they need to then supplement that they've? I mean, listen, they're now they're down to 4 pitchers. Do they need to supplement that in free agency and bring in another veteran in, or can they get away with it with some internal solution in Emerson Hancock?
Yeah, I mean, you could go some combination of Emerson Hancock, Logan Evans, Brandon Garcia. Use those 3 at various points. I mean, honestly, Emerson doesn't wow you, but he's a solid number 5. With what he is or who he is. Yeah. And I mean, and if you don't trust that aspect of it, then just go get a number 5 starter. It is difficult though, swapping out a 1 for a 5. That's why the bat has to be elite if you do that. It can't just be and that's, like Jerry says it's plan Z, but when you don't have necessarily all the financial resources to make plan A, B, C, D, E, F all the way through work, then sometimes you get to plan Z. I don't know. I think a lot of people I talked to in the organization just kind of thought they're just going to run it back with kind of what they have with minimal pieces added to it. Maybe add 1 more infielder. And it's fringy, like not the most elite bat, but I don't see them, we kind of figured they might have 20 to 25 million to play with in budget this year, maybe even less than that. Like they're not going to shoot it all on one player, and there's not even like that great a fit. Like we were going through the free agents out there, and like from an infield standpoint to play second or third, there's not a great fit. I mean, obviously there's Bregman, but nobody thinks he's coming.
There's nothing really in free agency. You're right. There's nothing at the 2 positions they desperately need. Second base and third base.
And part of that is roster building. Like when you build your roster, you can't just think of in the moment. You have to think down the road. Yeah. And that's why it's fair for fans to be pissed off about not spending in years past to supplement. The Padres, for all the free agents and all the moves, they didn't add them all at once. It was year by year. They added more and more, and I think that's what you need is you can't it's never the big go out and sign 5 guys in one class and try and make it work. It's add here, add there, even like with the Seager and Simeon thing, they added 2, but then they added more. They supplemented, they kind of piece it, I think that's where the frustration level can set in is okay, you're looking around and you kind of knew what the infield free agent class was going to be like anyways. Mm-hmm. So you're looking around and you didn't add. And then you get last year to a point where, okay, you need to add a piece to help your offense in the moment. Well, then you went outfield because that was best available. I mean, to me, I think it's this way. Maybe you just, if there's pieces out there, you can't get too overly caught up in how your everyday lineup's going to work, projecting it. You need to just get as much, accumulate the talent and then figure it out. And if you have to trade from that talent once you've accumulated it, then do it that way. But I don't think you should just limit yourself to only certain options because they don't have the finances to sit there and be that selective. They have to be a little bit more of the, I've said, TJ Maxx type of shopping. You have to be able to
love a TJ Maxx, and everybody does.
Yeah. You just don't want to try. You just don't ever want to try on any of the clothes. Wash them first.
Holland, of course, Hollander did talk. I think it was to Morosi. I think at MLB Network, where he said he identified second base as this is the spot we could probably upgrade. What is out there though? I mean, we kind of went through it. There really just isn't a lot of options out there. I mean, this is where again when they say they don't want to trade guys, it seems like the way to upgrade it would be via trade. Internal options there's nothing on the horizon. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I mean. Yeah, I don't think Cole Young's ready. And I don't think, Ryan Bliss is an everyday player just yet. I think he got exposed a little bit no matter what your replacement at KJR might think. I think,
I mean, the guy that tells everybody that they're not going to trade certain players like DK or Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And if you think that, you're an idiot because you're not local. But then when they do trade him, then you have to come out and go, oh, I was wrong. That guy?
Yeah, it was more like, I apologize for you misunderstanding me. It was kind of similar to Jerry DePoto's 54% apology. Like, sorry I didn't get my sense of humor on that.
I just don't know why. Stop doing declarative statements. You don't need to do it. Anything's a possibility. That's all you got to say.
I wrote that Robinson Cano was untradeable multiple times, and I was wrong.
And, you don't have to. Anything is possible in sports. Just anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and maybe Bliss is an everyday guy. I've never said he wasn't, but like he looked a little exposed to some fastballs and stuff, and he'll continue to work. But like, that's their internal option. Go with Bliss and maybe a platoon. You could use Rojas and Bliss as a platoon there. I think that's kind of their last, or even Dylan Moore somehow in a platoon. Dylan Moore and Josh Rojas. If you get a third baseman,
you think Rojas is back?
Yeah, I mean, $4 million for a tender on a free. I mean, like he serves a pretty good purpose. Well, he's just not. I don't think he's an everyday guy by any means. I think, the thinking was though that like him and Urias could do that for a whole season and equal what a major league level third baseman would be a quality. That's just not the case. Like, how different would their circumstances have been had they just ponied up and signed Matt Chapman? Instead, like he was there, he was available. We were a week into spring training. Matt Chapman hadn't signed, and like how they just said, no, screw it. We need a third baseman, and we can use Rojas at second, and also as a backup infielder or whatever. Then that changes everything a little bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does.
So I think he's fine. I think how they'll do it, but like there isn't like a great internal option. I think Cole Young's a little bit away from being ready. And that's fine. I mean, I don't think you really want to rush the poor kid. Now, if he does everything and plays himself into it by midseason, fine, whatever. That's a good problem to have. But there isn't one guy out there. There are teams like the Twins, the Orioles, Orioles, I think the Guardians. They have a lot of middle infielders in their system. Maybe you go get one of those guys instead. But right now, like I don't see an option where you sit there and say, oh, okay, we're going to do it this way.
Okay. Next week, I want to focus maybe on the first baseman options. What are they going to do there? And then eventually we will do our whole offseason shindig. You, me, Jude. Let's let the Extra Innings podcast breathe for a little bit. I mean, it's hot off the presses. People, I've listened to it this morning. It's wonderful work by both of you. I love the music. I thought you really came in with the intro, was really enthusiastic, a lot of energy with that. And then it's a wonderful conversation. I can sense when I'm listening to it that Jude is just shaking his head at you a lot. Yeah. That's what I appreciate about it.
Yeah, well, that's how we roll. But you always sound excited once you've had a lemon lime Celsius. You pound one of those down, you're like, let's go. I'm gonna test that out this weekend. See how they mix with Tito's.
Hey, go get after it. Have a blast. Have a blast there watching the Grizz. Have those guys stay warm, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Div.
Yeah, see you.
There he is, Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times. He joins us every week for our cold stove look on the Mariners. All brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941, located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been family-owned and operated for over 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a great, unique 12-lane experience. Check them out at chaletbowl.com. Book your next reservation and experience the best in local fun. In case you missed it, Divish's episode will be up on YouTube later. Also, check it out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and, of course, one-stop shop up at pucksports.com.